Hello, and welcome to Catholicism in the Car. My name is Parker Zerbal. Alrighty, good morning, everyone. So it is raining out today, so I'm hoping that the rain won't get so hard that it's going to be difficult for you to hear me. I'm hoping that won't happen. Because today we are discussing quite a controversial topic, at least in the United States, and it is one of our social issues episodes, and this one is on gun control. Guns blazing! Oh yeah. So, alright, what are some principles that we can use regarding this issue? And I was actually talking with some friends about this issue a number of weeks ago because I really am kind of stumped a lot of times by this issue on what is the correct way to go about this. Because, I mean, here's the principles. People have a right to defend themselves. And there is a real right where, like, in order to defend yourself against somebody with a gun, you need a gun or something, greater than a gun, like a cannon. And don't get me wrong, I don't think anybody's advocating that civilians should be able to have artillery weapons. But that's like one of these principles here is for the sake of self-defense, one should have an adequate means to defend oneself, and especially in a world where, for the last 500 years or so, guns have been the primary mode of weaponry. It only makes sense that civilians should be allowed to have some sort of weaponry in the form of guns. Now, but what's kind of the flip side principle to this? Well, the flip side would be that nobody who would be untrustworthy in handling a firearm would be allowed to have one. So, I would see no one with a severe mental illness would be allowed to have a firearm. No one who has had any sort of past history of violence should be allowed to have a firearm, things of that nature. So, you have to look at the individual, you have to screen them somehow, in order for you to know, will this person use a firearm in a safe way for either the uses of self-defense or procuring food for their family. And that's the third thing, is guns being used for hunting, for farming, because a lot of farming, if you have pigs, usually the most humane way to kill them is by shooting them in the head, rather than doing some other form of killing, like slitting their throats and letting the blood dry out, like people will often do with chickens. Pigs being, higher order animals, it would be a little cruel to slit their throats and let the blood dry out unless that was the only option you had, right? So guns can be quite useful for hunting, for farming, things of that nature, and not just for killing livestock for eating them, but also defending your livestock so that predators cannot get to them. Let's see. So yeah, well, funny enough, I'm just thinking here. This reminded me of a number of years ago. There was a little bit of a scare in Indiana. I think this was 2016 or 2017. There's a little bit of a scare because there were some mountain lion sightings in Indiana. Now, last I remember, the DNR confirmed that mountain lion was just kind of passing through, but farmers really kind of freaked out about that because mountain lions, to my knowledge, are the largest predators in North America, and they could easily pose a threat to livestock, and not to mention human beings, right? So, but apparently that one was just moving through. We've also had some, I believe in the past, we've had some wolves moving through. But back in the prairie days, back in the settling days, mountain lions, wolves, they were they existed in Indiana. So did bison. Indiana has in their state seal, there's a bison hopping over a log. such a funny funny state seal. Anyway, so yeah, we used to have bison, and now they only exist on farms, in Indiana. There's no wild roaming bison anymore. But that's all besides the point. The principles on gun control would be, I think those three give a pretty good foundation of, self-defense. And then also, you need to make sure that somehow people who are unfit to be owning a firearm do not acquire them, right? And then, they're also necessary for things like hunting, livestock, food procuration for human beings. Anyway, this is such a hotly debated issue in the United States today for the main reason of, people like their guns. It's the Second Amendment to the Constitution. That's a real thing. And yet people over the last 20 years or so, pretty much since the Columbine shooting in the 90s, have really been worried about the issue of mass shooting. And this is not something to be taken lightly. This really is an important topic that needs to be discussed within a society. But I guess what I'm trying to convey here is that this issue, it's a slippery one. It's not black and white, as we've said. A lot of these issues are not black and white. They're grayscale. And this one in particular, I don't think the issue of gun control would be a problem. I don't think it would be an issue if we weren't having these sorts of mass shootings in the United States. And so, the question is, what's the root of the problem? Is it that people are acquiring guns who shouldn't own them? I think that's pretty fair. And there is only so much you can do with screening and things like that. But is the solution to take away all guns? I don't think anybody's arguing that we should take away all guns. I believe most people would still agree that we would need them for hunting and farming, and I don't know, maybe some people would say we don't need them for self-defense because we have the police, which is kind of funny because there was, a whole movement in 2020 to defund the police. And even, some people saying get rid of the police, right? It's just ironic. But I don't really have much of a stake in this issue yet. I haven't been able to really pin down where I would want to stand on this. But I see value in all of those principles. I see value in the need and the usefulness of guns for the average citizen. I see no way in which automatic guns would be useful for a citizen. I fail to see how that is something that should be argued. In the same way that ordinary citizens shouldn't have use of artillery weapons or nuclear weapons or whatever you might say. I don't see the usefulness of an automatic weapon for a regular citizen. The only use really for it is warfare. Or if you are in Australia when you have emu problems. If you've ever heard this story, Australia had problems with an overpopulation of emus, and I think it was whoever was their prime minister or head of their government at the time said hey, we're gonna deploy the military to just mow down these emus because they're so overpopulated and they're eating all the crops, and and the emus would evade the military, and they didn't kill very many. And I forget what ended up happening, how they ended up solving the problem, but there's a great video on YouTube by what's the guy's name? It's not the Infographics Show, but it's another one like that where they do cartoon sort of stuff. Anyway, it was funny. I was thinking about that. That would be the only other use for automatic weapons, but they would be in use for, even in that instance, they were only used by the military in Australia. So I don't see any use for automatic weapons. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see why that should ever be allowed. So I apologize in this episode. I've been using a lot of vocal fillers, saying a lot. I apologize for that in this one. I don't know. I don't know if there's any excuse for it, but all right, thanks. That was our topic on guns. We'll see how that one's received. Such a controversial issue. All right, thanks.
Oh, real quick, please feel free to subscribe to any of my podcasts on any of the podcast players. Find me on YouTube. Please subscribe. Like me on Facebook, like the Catholicism Car channel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all there. Catholicism Car. And then I also have a Patreon account if you wish to support what I do at this podcast and this YouTube channel. And you can also support us on Anchor.fm. There's a support button there you click on. I also have links to all this on my website's support page at www.catholicisminthecar.com.